When I wasn't invited to my sister's engagement, Mom said, "It's just a small dinner." I planned a beach trip instead. Hours later, they blew up my phone with calls they regretted making. If my family were a dining table, I wouldn't have a seat at it. I'd be the folding chair left in the hallway, dragged out only when it suited them and shoved back into storage once they were done pretending I belonged. That might sound bitter, and I'll admit it is, but after years of being the extra, the one who sets up the chairs, fixes the outlets, or drives 3 hours to celebrate someone else's milestones while no one remembers my birthday lands in the same week, you start to see things clearer. My name's Mark. I'm 29, live alone in a plain apartment above my workshop, and I run a small but steady repair business. Folks call me when the faucet won't quit dripping or the breaker keeps tripping, but I'm not the one my family calls when they're planning celebrations. Not anymore. The star of the family is Rachel, my younger sister by 2 years, though you'd swear she came into this world wearing a crown and carrying a backup Instagram account. If Rachel so much as whispers the word engaged, my mom is hunting down venues before the ring even slides onto her finger. Me? I once brought a girlfriend to Thanksgiving, and my mom asked if I'd hired her off Craigslist. So yeah, there's some history there. It was a Wednesday afternoon, and I was wedged under a kitchen sink, trying to convince an old disposal to give up the fight, when my phone buzzed. "Hi, sweetheart," Mom chirped. "Hey," I muttered, one arm buried in pipes and regret. "Just wanted to tell you we're doing something small for Rachel and Evan this weekend. Just a casual dinner. Nothing big." I blinked. "Okay. Am I invited?" "Oh, it's just immediate family," she said lightly. Immediate family. The people I've spent 29 Christmas mornings with. The same woman whose garage I rewired last summer at no charge. The same dad whose fence I rebuilt after a storm, no bill attached. That kind of immediate family? "Got it," I said flatly. "We just thought you'd be busy with work," she added quickly. "Right. Plumbing jobs. Playing the help." She gave a nervous laugh. "Don't be silly. It's just dinner." "Sure. Enjoy. Love you." Click. I didn't say it back. That night I didn't stew. I didn't message anyone. I microwaved leftover pasta, dropped onto the futon, and started browsing flights, hotels, beach towns. If I wasn't welcome at the family table, then fine. I'd take myself somewhere with better views and none of the backhanded seating arrangements. I booked a weekend in a quiet seaside town about 3 hours away. Mid-range hotel, ocean view, continental breakfast. Nothing fancy. Just me, salt air, and no family group chats. It wasn't a tantrum. It was choosing respect for myself. I didn't tell them. No sarcastic texts. No digs. I just packed a duffel with 2 t-shirts, a hoodie, swim trunks, and the sandals I save for the rare days I treat myself like I matter. Saturday before sunrise, I hit the road. As the city lights faded behind me and the sky shifted from steel to gold, it hit me. I wasn't mad anymore. I was just done. Done straining for a chair they'd never really pulled out for me. Done being the quiet, dependable one who never complained. They said it was just a small dinner. Fine. They could have it. I had something better lined up. Silence, space, and shrimp tacos waiting at the end of an empty highway. By the time I reached the shore, the beach was already alive with families juggling umbrellas, kids chasing gulls, and couples showing off iced coffees like prizes. I checked in, dropped my bag, and stepped onto the balcony. Waves rolled in. The air was clean. No passive-aggressive smiles or remarks. I sat back, letting the salt wind strip away a week's worth of irritation. The beach wasn't glamorous, just a half-forgotten stretch of sand where sunscreen always smells like childhood and nobody's desperate to go viral. Perfect. Down below, a dad was losing a battle with a pop-up tent while his toddler hurled sand at his legs like a cheer squad. I grinned. That guy had a worse Saturday than me, and he'd been invited to his family's party. Around noon, I wandered the boardwalk and found a shack serving seafood, its walls decorated with old surfboards and menus scribbled by hand like survivors of storms. I ordered a shrimp po' boy, sat at a weathered picnic bench, and checked my phone. No missed calls. No texts. Silence can be louder than noise. Not that I wanted them to reach out. I just noticed they didn't. No hope you're doing okay. No wish you could have come. I opened Instagram. Rachel had posted. She wore a white flowy dress, Evan behind her in a linen shirt, stiff as ever. The caption, "Engaged to the love of my life," ring emoji, surrounded by the best family ever. Cool. I guess best family didn't include the brother who carried her upstairs when she fell asleep in the car as a kid, or the guy who fixed her bed frame after a breakup and pretended not to notice her crying. I was the extra now, the outsider. I flipped my phone face down. Not here. Not today. Back at the hotel, I swapped into swim trunks and walked to the water. I waited out until the cold hit my chest, then dove under. Salt burned my nose, but the air I sucked in after felt like freedom. Floating there with my arms spread wide, staring at the endless sky, I thought, this beats pretending I belong. It's not that I hate my family. They're not cruel. They just have a way of forgetting. Forgetting every time I showed up, pitched in, kept quiet, smiled through. It's like they edited me out, like I was bad lighting in a photo. And I let them do it for too long. That night, I found a small seafood bar strung with twinkly lights and a man playing guitar in the corner. I ordered fish tacos and a local beer, then sat by myself watching the sky melt into stars. The couple next to me were celebrating something. Maybe an anniversary, maybe just surviving a Tuesday. And they clinked glasses and whispered things I couldn't catch. I didn't envy them. I only noticed. Then I saw an older woman across the patio, alone like me, lift her glass and smile when our eyes met. We didn't trade words, just a mutual nod, a quiet toast between strangers who'd both chosen solitude over whatever Messier option awaited them. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like a loner. I felt like someone making a choice, choosing peace instead of pretending. I went back to the hotel, pulled the covers up under my chin, and let the sound of the waves drown out whatever was happening back at that small dinner. It could wait. Morning came slow, ocean breeze, bad hotel coffee, and salt still crusted on my skin from the night before. I opened the balcony door just enough to let the waves in again, steady, rhythmic, a reminder that the world doesn't actually revolve around family dinners you're not invited to. I wasn't in any hurry. That's the odd thing about disappearing. It doesn't need drama, just the decision to stop showing up where you're not wanted. I threw on a wrinkled tee, slipped into my good sandals, and went down to the beach. It was already buzzing, surfers wiping out, kids building sandcastles too close to the tide, couples bickering about sunscreen, and somehow the chaos felt peaceful. No snide comments, no last-minute "can you fix this?" requests. Mid-morning, I wandered toward the boardwalk. One of those gloriously run-down stretches that smells like grilled pineapple, old wood, and the faint ghost of a corn dog. I passed a guy selling hand-painted skateboards, another trying to guess people's weight for a $5, and a third aggressively offering hugs. I drifted into a tiny outdoor market wedged between a souvenir shack and an $18 smoothie place. There were handmade shell necklaces, driftwood carvings, and tie-dye shirts that hadn't been cool since 2006. I hadn't planned on buying anything, but a small metal keychain shaped like a wave caught my eye. Worn, smooth at the edges, the perfect fit in my palm, so I bought it. No good reason, I just did. While the vendor counted change, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't rush to check it. Honestly, I almost forgot my phone existed this weekend, but when I pulled it out, the name on the screen made my eyebrows climb. Melanie. No emoji, no punctuation. Just why didn't you pick up? You always do. I stood in the sun, the keychain warm in my hand, staring at those words. It wasn't angry, and it wasn't passive-aggressive. It felt hollow, like she expected something to snap into place, and when it didn't, the world lost its bearings. She was right. I always picked up. When Evan lost his job and needed advice, I answered. When Rachel needed help moving for the 6th time, I answered. When Dad needed someone to reset the Wi-Fi or check the water heater, I answered. Always the same script. This was the first time I hadn't. I didn't reply. I locked the screen and kept walking. Back on the sand, I kicked off my sandals and let the water lap my ankles while families tossed frisbees and dogs ignored leash laws. I stood stock still, eyes on the horizon, letting the ocean blur everything else. The air tasted of salt and sunscreen, and the warmth that settled into me came from doing absolutely nothing for once, and not feeling guilty about it. Somewhere back home, they were probably rinsing champagne flutes and packing up leftover cake. Maybe Mom was scrolling through photos. Maybe Dad was pretending he hadn't teared up during the toast. Maybe Rachel was showing off her ring to people who had no clue who installed the dimmers to set the mood that night. That would be me, uninvited but still doing the work in the background. Same pattern, same old script. I stopped for tacos on the way back to the hotel. A couple argued about guacamole portions, and it made me laugh out loud for no reason. I grabbed 2 shrimp tacos, sat on a wooden bench facing the water, and let my phone buzz once more without checking it. I let it vibrate against the wood until it went quiet. That night, I ate under the same string lights at the seafood bar, same guitarist in the corner, same slightly overdone fish tacos, and the same silence. But this time it felt heavier. Not because I missed them, but because they were beginning to notice I didn't. Sunday morning felt like the perfect cap to a weekend of not caring. I slept in, stretched until my spine popped, and padded barefoot to the sliding door. Ocean breeze, warm sunlight, a toddler's distant meltdown about sunscreen, pure perfection. I had no plan beyond breakfast, and maybe a pina colada. I didn't owe anyone an explanation. Then I checked my phone, missed calls, and 1 voicemail. All from Mom. The timestamp started at 2:17 a.m. Now, I'm no detective, but late-night calls rarely mean nothing. The voicemail sat there blinking. I didn't press play right away. I poured a cup of the hotel's questionable coffee and sat out on the balcony, letting the sun do its slow work. Eventually, I gave in and hit play. Hey, Mark. It's me, your mom. I don't know if you're busy or if you're avoiding us, but something happened. Pause. Background noise. A man's voice mumbling something I couldn't make out. She was somewhere loud. Your sister's really upset, someone said. It wasn't supposed to go like this. Nobody expected it. Another pause, the long kind where you can hear someone picking their words so they don't make things worse. Just call me, okay? Please. Click. That was all. No real details, just enough crumbs to ruin my morning and make the coffee taste like suspicion. I sat there listening to the ocean and watched a sandpiper give me the stink eye from a railing. Eventually, I opened the family group chat. Rachel had renamed it Melmel's Big Night Party Popper Ring Party Popper from a week ago. Now it read like a crime scene transcript. Uncle Ron, has anyone heard from Evan? And Kathy, still shocked that happened in front of Grandma. Rachel, I cannot believe this. What is wrong with him? Dad, let's keep this respectful. And private. Right. Private. Just you, your wife, your daughter, and a dozen relatives who couldn't keep a secret if you tattooed it on their foreheads. Cousin Layla, I'm still shaking. I thought he was joking. Evan's brother, Mark would have handled this way better. Just saying. Excuse me? Why was I being name-dropped? I kept scrolling. Aunt Lisa, should we call Mark? Mom, he's not answering. Rachel, he never answers when you actually need him. Oh, now you need me? Right. Then Grandma, of all people, popped up with a message. I hope you're okay, sweetheart. Proud of you for staying out of it. I stared at that a long time. Grandma wasn't one for drama, so if she was texting me directly, something had clearly gone sideways. I locked the phone. The screen went black and reflected my sun-bleached, salt-streaked face staring back. It felt good. I walked the beach again, let the cold water numb my ankles, and watched a gaggle of teenagers try to bury a friend in sand with his head sticking out, grinning like an idiot. That kid? No family drama today. I was halfway through a fish taco on a boardwalk bench when Rachel called me directly, for the first time in over 6 months. I declined. No guilt. Back at the hotel, I stood on the balcony and let the night wind hit my face. Whatever had happened at that party was ugly, and for once I didn't have to clean it up. By the time the sun slipped behind the waves and everything glowed that fake golden pink light that makes even trash cans look dreamy, I was on the balcony sipping my second soda like it was aged whiskey. I had no plans, no responsibilities, and thanks to the hotel's Wi-Fi, a front row seat to the slow unspooling of the meltdown back home. One notification, a blurry 3-second video captioned only Evan. You idiot. My thumb hovered like I was defusing a bomb. Then curiosity won and I hit play. Chaos, mid-shout. Rachel screaming full volume. Say it to my face, Evan. Is it true? A glass knocked over. A plate smashed. Someone yelling, that's my casserole. In the background, Evan's voice cracked out a pathetic, it wasn't like that. Then cut. 3 seconds said more than any dinner invite ever had. Before I could even process it, the chat exploded like someone tossed a grenade on the buffet table. Lisa, I knew something was off. His jawline screams cheater. Uncle Ron, why was there even a second woman? What kind of Netflix nonsense? Cousin Jared, yo, Mel went full WWE on that centerpiece. I think someone cried. Layla, Grandma's I twitched. That's when I knew it was over. Evan's brother, Mark, wouldn't have let this happen. Should have invited him instead of this clown. Then Rachel herself. How could you not tell me you were still talking to your ex? I found her commenting on our photos. You absolute goblin. I reread that one twice. Goblin was a bold choice, but weirdly on point. The messages kept coming faster than I could scroll. Mom tried to tone it down with "let's not fight. We're still a family," which cousin Derek immediately undercut with "not after Evan used the proposal cake as a shield." Man ducked behind fondant like it was bulletproof. I laughed out loud on the balcony like an idiot, and it felt incredible. For once I wasn't the one mopping up emotional messes. I wasn't the middleman or the ignored handyman with a wrench and a forced smile. I was just a guy at the beach watching a disaster from a safe, sandy distance. Then Rachel messaged me privately. I shouldn't have said you weren't real family. That was wrong. Pause. You're the only one who's ever actually shown up when it mattered. Even when you didn't have to. I stared at that forever because the truth was I'd shown up. Years of birthdays I wasn't celebrated at. House projects I fixed without thanks. Errands. Emergencies. Breakdowns. Quiet support. Silent fixes. But not this time. This time I chose peace. I chose distance. And choosing that somehow made me more visible than I'd ever been. I dropped my phone on the bed and walked barefoot into the surf, letting the tide nip my ankles while stars started to poke through the dusk like they were checking if it was safe. Somewhere hundreds of miles away, my family was finally forced to face a mess they couldn't pin on me, a mess I didn't cause and didn't have to clean. When I got back to my room, the group chat had a new name, from Mel's Big Night Party Popper Ring Party Popper to Family First Ray Hart. Of course it was. And right underneath that call from Mom sat a log stacked with 12 missed calls and 3 voicemails. Yeah, that tracked. I flipped the phone silent, plugged it in, and left it face down on the nightstand. The waves outside were roaring, but the silence I gave back? Louder. I woke to my phone rattling across the nightstand like it was trying to escape. 21 missed calls. For voicemails. A dozen texts. It was like everyone suddenly remembered I had a number. And apparently, boundaries. I didn't check right away. I just laid there, listening to the ocean, the thud of a hotel door somewhere down the hall, and the frantic squawk of a seagull having an all-out brawl with a potato chip. Peaceful. And I wasn't ready to surrender it yet. Eventually, I gave in. First was Mom. Mark, please call me. I don't know what else to say. Then another. We miss you. I know we've made mistakes. But this family needs you right now. Now it needs me. The same family that forgot I existed when it came time to plan the big night. The same people who once labeled me too quiet to notice at a family dinner, then asked me to take the trash out 10 minutes later. Right. Then came Rachel. I was wrong. I said things I didn't mean. You've always been the one who shows up when it matters. I read it twice. And yeah, it stung. Not because she apologized, but because part of me wanted to believe she meant it. But the truth was, the only reason I wasn't there this time was because they'd never even given me the chance. Last in line was Evan. Of course. Hey man, look, stuff got blown out of proportion. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. It just got complicated. Oh, here we go with the "it's complicated" routine, like this was some Facebook status and not a double proposal implosion. I know I messed up. I just wish you were there. It wouldn't have gone so bad if you were. Probably true. If I had been there, I'd have been the one calmly shoving napkins into Grandma's lap while Rachel threw her engagement ring like a ninja star. But I wasn't there. And for once, it wasn't my job to mop up the wreckage. I left the phone face down and stepped outside. The beach was cool, the sand damp and packed from the morning tide. Kids were working on a sandcastle that looked suspiciously like a potato while their moms scrolled Instagram with one hand and sipped coffee with the other. A few yards away, an older couple sat in folding chairs, shoulder to shoulder, silently watching the waves. That image stuck with me. Sometimes the quiet is the connection, not the chaos. Back in the room, I finally listened to one voicemail. Mom again. Her voice was soft, careful, like she wasn't sure I'd even hear it. I know we hurt you, and I'm not going to pretend we didn't. I didn't think you'd really stay away. A pause. I guess I got used to you always forgiving us. Another pause, longer. Voices behind her, probably still sweeping Bryce's dignity off the floor. You didn't deserve to be left out. And I'm sorry. I mean that. Click. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. It was a good apology, but I'd grown tired of apologies that showed up after the damage, when I was no longer useful. Then Aunt Lisa chimed in. You always hold everyone together. We didn't realize how much until you weren't there. Translation: we took you for granted until the glue melted. Next was Cousin Jared. Grandma says she wants to see you. And she said, and I quote, at least Mark's not the one who brought the floozy. Charming, Grandma. But duly noted. That evening, I sat on the balcony with a basket of garlic shrimp and a soda in a coconut-shaped glass. It was corny, overpriced, and maybe the best thing I'd ever sipped. The messages kept piling in. Apologies, excuses, one cousin asking, are you mad at me? This from the same cousin who once called me the background character of the family. I answered none of them. Silence was louder than any comeback, and right then it was the language I spoke best. Midweek, I drove home. No fanfare. No countdown in the group chat. I didn't announce it because the trip wasn't for them. I had bills to check, laundry to fold, a workshop that missed me more than blood relatives ever had. And I wanted the break to end on my terms. The beach had cleared my head in ways nothing else ever could. When I passed the exit sign for my hometown, I knew something had shifted. Not just around me, but inside me. This time, I wasn't stepping back into the same role. And I wasn't taking requests. Within 30 minutes of being home, Mom somehow knew. I don't know if she had me wired with a tracker or if someone spotted me at the gas station, but my phone buzzed before I even unlocked the apartment. Are you back? Can we talk? The timestamp read 8:09 a.m. She didn't even let me buy groceries first. That afternoon, another message. From Rachel. Can we meet for coffee or something? I just want to clear the air. The air doesn't clear if people keep blowing smoke. But I said yes. Not because I owed them, but because I didn't want it hanging over me like a damp shower curtain. We met at a local cafe, the kind that sells coffee strong enough to strip paint. Rachel was already there, sitting by the window, fidgeting with her phone case. She looked different, not her hair or clothes, but in that scraped raw confidence way. Hey, she said as I sat down. I nodded. She waited, then blurted, so, I guess you know everything now. More than I wanted, I said, taking a sip. The coffee tasted like scorched bark. Perfect. She gave a brittle laugh and looked down. I really messed up. I didn't jump in. I just waited. I should have invited you, she said, her voice catching. You've always shown up for me, and I just took that for granted. There it was, the line I thought I'd always wanted to hear. But it didn't feel like a prize. It felt like proof that I'd let too much slide for too long. I leaned in. You didn't just forget. You excluded me. You made a choice. Rachel's eyes filled. She nodded. I know. And I hate that I didn't realize how much I leaned on you until you weren't there. She took a breath. The whole dinner blew up. Evan got exposed. Grandma nearly choked on a cherry tomato. And Aunt Kathy swore off family events forever. I raised an eyebrow. So, a normal Tuesday. She laughed, a real laugh this time. Yeah, but without you, it felt worse. There it was again, that quiet expectation that I'd slide right back into my role as emotional janitor. I smiled politely. I'm glad you're okay. But I didn't come back to be part of that. Her smile faltered. I kept going. I've got my own life. My own peace. And I'm not trading it in just because the house caught fire while I was gone. She swallowed, nodded slowly, then said something I hadn't expected. I get it. I really do. I don't blame you. I just hope, one day, you'll still be around. When I left the cafe, I didn't feel angry. I felt free. For the first time, I'd said what I needed to say, and I didn't rush to make anyone else feel better. No cleanup. No guilt. No fake closure. Just truth. Calm, steady, unshakable. That night I sat in my workshop with the hum of tools and a half-finished project I'd been ignoring for weeks. Music playing, sleeves rolled up, I got to work. Because while my family scrambled to decide what I meant to them, I already knew what I meant to myself. Mark wasn't angry. He wasn't out for revenge. But his silence spoke louder than all their apologies. Maybe it'd show up when I skipped a big moment they expected me at. Maybe in a recognition they'd never imagined I'd earn. Either way, they'd see they weren't part of my life anymore. Not because I shoved them out, but because they walked out first. A week went by. I didn't call, didn't text, didn't check the chat. They renamed it again, from family first heart emoji to rebuilding together folded hands emoji. Like slapping a motivational poster on a cracked wall would stop the leaks. I didn't leave town. I went back to work. Back in rhythm. The kind you earn when no one hands you shortcuts. The shop was smoother than ever. A small crew I trusted. Folks who showed up because they wanted to, not because guilt dragged them in. One client, a property manager, pulled me aside after a job. You ever think about expansion? You're the most requested guy in 3 counties. That stuck with me, not because I craved praise, but because somewhere between skipped birthdays and forgotten holidays, I'd built something untouchable. I wasn't just enough. I was more than they ever expected. That weekend, the city hosted its annual Community Awards banquet. Small town affair, fold-out chairs, overcooked pasta, a guy named Larry covering early 2000s hits on acoustic. But they gave me something. A plaque. For outstanding local service and entrepreneurship. Simple, clean. I hadn't told my family I was going. Didn't need them there. But they showed. Back row, blending in like awkward tourists. Mom clutching her purse. Rachel looking like she'd swallowed her apology whole. Dad giving one stiff nod like effort was currency. Me? I smiled. Calm. Took the plaque, shook the mayor's hand, thanked the crowd, and sat next to my foreman, who leaned over and whispered, "You didn't tell me they'd be here." Neither did I whispered back. After the event, Rachel found me in the hall. Alone. "That was a big deal," she said softly. "You deserved it." "Thanks," I said, slipping my phone into my pocket. She looked like she wanted to say more, but I didn't make it easier. She cleared her throat. "I hope someday we can be close again." I gave a polite nod. Maybe. But in my head, I already knew. I had a new definition of close. And it didn't include people who only noticed my value once it became undeniable. That night, I posted a photo of the plaque. Caption: "Turns out, sitting at the kids' table doesn't stop you from building your own." The likes rolled in fast. So did the messages. None from my family. Not right away. Until 2 hours later. "Mom, we're proud of you." I didn't reply. She already knew. Because from where I was standing, I finally had a seat at the table. And this time, I'd built it myself.